Yo, Spain's second largest bank, just discovered, has been recommending Bitcoin allocations to their wealthy clients since September. But it's not the only country in Latin America that's been following this trend. Country of Brazil, Banco Itaú, the largest bank of that country, has been offering Bitcoin and crypto trading to their clients as well. The trend seems to be continuing worldwide to the point that even Jamie Dimon is saying, hey, listen, we're going to have to offer Bitcoin trading to our clients. But this is absolutely massive breaking news. This is a huge bank in Spain, lots of legitimacy, lots of legacy, and since September. So it's been a while now. It's been more than 6 months. They've been kind of doing this under the radar. And wait till I tell you the allocation recommended. They're recommending up to 7%, which goes along with what we've been saying on Simply Bitcoin, which is you kind of start dipping your toes in a little bit into Bitcoin. You start with those 1 to 2% allocations, and then before you know it, you end up like me and Opti 100% in, right? So this is pretty crazy breaking news. Let's jump straight into the article where let's talk a lot about this and let's break it down. I think the article originally came from Reuters. We have a special guest for today. We have John from FutureBit. We're going to be talking about FutureBit during the culture segment. It's super cool. It's very interesting. I think you guys are going to love it as Bitcoiners. Anyways, breaking news from Reuters. Spanish bank BBVA tells wealthy clients to invest in Bitcoin. Spanish lender BBVA is advising wealthy clients to invest up to 7% of their portfolio into cryptocurrencies, an executive said on Tuesday. In the latest sign, some banks are warming up to a sector long avoided by mainstream finance because of its risks. I would say the key, the smoking gun out of all of this, forget the title, forget the second largest bank in Spain is recommending this. The key is the allocation size, because a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, it started at like 1 or 2%. Now it's all the way up to 7%. Before I keep going, Opti, thoughts on this, bro? I mean, it's almost as if we were right.
Yeah, it's almost as if we were right. Now, this is obviously a huge change, though it is interesting. We did see something similar come out of Russia where they only allowed their wealthy investors to get into Bitcoin. And then the second thing is, of course, they've been doing this since September. Just a fact check, guys. It's June of 2025. So they've been doing this for over 6 months, recommending Bitcoin. For a lot of times, we're wondering, okay, who's actually getting into Bitcoin? But Nico, will you scroll down to the very bottom of this article here? The very last sentence, I think, might be one of the most important parts of this article. No, go. Oh, yeah, there it is. If you look at a balanced portfolio, if you introduce 3%, you already boost the performance, and then go down at 3%, you are not taking a huge risk. This is what we've been telling you guys for a long time. Again, we have moved from Bitcoin being a risky asset to now, hey, just add a little bit of Bitcoin to your portfolio. It's not that big of a risk. It will actually probably boost the performance of your portfolio. So now the signal's getting out there. Obviously, they haven't gone full sailor yet. It's not, what's a triple maxi, 150%, leverage all your assets, sell all your shares level yet. But it is kind of a trend we've been seeing that everyone tips their toes. We've been talking about it for a while, that the institutions for a while there, it was career risk to basically even suggest Bitcoin. And now we gotten to the point where it's a career risk not to suggest Bitcoin. So it's super interesting to see this development happen in real time. Obviously, you don't need a bank to tell you to buy Bitcoin, but having more legitimacy and more of these, quote, trust institutions starting to embrace Bitcoin, I think is going to further spread the signal to everyone else out there.
Yeah, I mean, and also thing that I'll say too is like the creep, right? Because initially it was 1 to 2%, and then it's moved all the way up to 7%, right? And they're basically saying, hey, 3% is not a huge risk. Now, what's really interesting is that, like, take a look at what regulatory bodies are saying. It's kind of in stark contrast. The European Securities and Markets Authority said earlier this year that 95% of EU banks do not engage in crypto activities. And it goes on to say regulators continue to warn about the risks of cryptocurrencies, saying investors should expect to lose all their money. So despite, kind of this regulatory hostility that continues to come out of Europe, I think it's because they really want a CBDC. The bank, Europe's largest banks, whether in France, in Spain, are like, dude, we don't really trust you guys. You should maybe invest 7% of your portfolio into Bitcoin. Anyways, before we continue, I want to get our guest thoughts. John, as a Bitcoin entrepreneur, in the space, you've been building for a while now. What are your thoughts on this, dude? Because this wasn't the case. It's almost like the legitimization of Bitcoin in the eyes of TradFi. I think as Bitcoiners, they're just kind of like, dude, like Bitcoin and self custody, don't really care about all this stuff. But I remember, 5 years ago, we were getting laughed out of the room, and now it seems like they're just like, hey, we actually want a seat at the table. This Bitcoin thing is actually not so bad after all. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, it's hilarious watching this play out, and being in this space for 10 years and, seeing them, from a personal experience, the banks actively fight against what I have been personally building for the past decade. And now we're seeing them come into the fold. It's pretty insane to watch the full 180 they've done. As the saying goes, first they laugh at you, then they ignore you, then they fight you, and now we're at the phase of they're just joining the fold because they know this is an unstoppable monetary force, and they're either going to join us or they're going to be left in the dust. When I first started the company back in 2015, I could barely get banked in any bank because we were building Bitcoin hardware. And when we did get started, they were actively trying to debank us. And you've heard all the stories of all the major institutions debanking Bitcoiners and Bitcoin companies. That was true. I'm a live case of that. I had to fight that with crazy stuff back in the day to stay afloat. And now they're coming at us trying to invest in us and trying to be part of what we're building. So it's been a wild ride, man, and it's pretty crazy to see how the narrative has changed over the years.
Absolutely, it's completely changed. It's done a 180, so to speak. And again, I think it's Bitcoin's incentives. Now, what's really interesting about this article as well, and then we're going to move on to this post by James Lavish, is it goes on to say according to this Reuters article, BBVA was one of the first large global banks to advise its wealthy clients to buy cryptocurrencies. It had been executing on client requests to buy them since 2021. So this has been happening behind the scenes for 4 years now. Which is pretty effing wild in my opinion. And I mean, it makes sense, right? You have a lot of wealthy people. I'm assuming they manage a lot of high net worth individuals' wealth. And they're like, hey, this Bitcoin thing, it might be a good idea to get some just in case it catches on.
Well, Nico, hold on. Before you go on, the wording there is on client's request. So if you came to them, they would, give you some advice. Now they're actively pushing Bitcoin to all of their clients. So that is the huge shift.
1,000%. Right. So anyways, I'm going to kind of connect this with this post by James Lavish. And again, check out the date. This was from June 4th, 2024, kind of prophesizing what essentially is happening here. So James starts off with institutions will first add a tiny bit of Bitcoin to select portfolios, as we're beginning to see. This is called towing into a trade. Then they will do enough research to learn that by adding 1 to 5% allocation to Bitcoin to traditional portfolios like the 60-40 over the last decade, not only enhances absolute returns, but also raises the Sharpe ratio and only marginally increases the drawdowns. Now connect the dots with what Opti was pointing out with what the last part of this article said. If you look at a balanced portfolio and you introduce 3%, you already boosted the performance. At 3%, you're not taking a huge risk. So that's exactly what James Lavish is predicted back in 2024, and here we are in 2025, and look at that, right? Anyways, he goes on to say, it is at this point that they not only increase their first allocation to a full position, but they start adding Bitcoin to other portfolios. First, reallocating capital from stocks and then bonds and then both, and they will not be price sensitive like individual investors. They will just participate with the market volumes and buy, and then more institutions will wake up and come on board, then many, then most, then career risk will have transformed from owning Bitcoin to not owning any, slowly then suddenly. I would say that we are in the suddenly phase, absolutely, for sure, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. And by the way, this isn't just an isolated incident, as I was saying before. But before I get into that, I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, James Lavish, bro, like absolutely spot on, predicting the future, dude, of what inevitably was going to happen. But I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of credit. I think as all Bitcoiners, you start with that, like, yeah, I'm just going to buy a little bit. But before you know it, like within 24, like within 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you're 100% in. John, am I right? Am I wrong? What are your thoughts?
You're definitely right in terms of the narrative that's been playing out on Wall Street itself, and how people are getting into Bitcoin and understanding it, and eventually they'll keep allocating more and more until they'll come to the understanding that this whole system is rigged, and if you're not nearly 100% allocated, you're pretty much losing at the end of the day. But what I'm more concerned about, and what all these narratives have been playing out, especially in the last 2 years with Saylor and Wall Street and the whole institutional push of Bitcoin, is people are understanding Bitcoin in this stock Wall Street narrative. And all the new entries are not understanding Bitcoin, the network, and Bitcoin, what it means to actually run Bitcoin. And that's kind of like my mission of what I'm trying to change. And there has not been enough discussions about that. If more people don't understand that Bitcoin is more than just this asset that you can just buy, it's not going to be good for the health of Bitcoin long term. People have to understand that Bitcoin itself is a monetary network that's run by people. And if enough people are not participating at the base layer, it's not going to be good for the long term. And, while I love, while these news stories get all the views and get all the likes and get all the attention, we can't forget what Bitcoin is about at the end of the day, and what it means for all of us to run Bitcoin, and what it means for freedom. And just want to make sure that with all these discussions, that's not forgotten.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. It's something that we echo here on Simply Bitcoin, right? Not your keys, not your cheese. Like, really, if we really want the world to change, we really need individuals becoming sovereign by basically taking their wealth into self-custody. That's really how this works. And as you said, John, like the kind of the danger, I don't say it's danger, but I don't know. I don't know what other word to use, but kind of like the risk factor here is that essentially, you have this centralization of this large amount of Bitcoin with these custodians. I believe like the vast majority of Bitcoin is held on Coinbase on behalf of all these ETFs, on behalf of strategy, right? Like ideally, you want individuals all taking Bitcoin into self custody. And then there's a conversation about paper Bitcoin, right? Because if you have this centralization of custody of Bitcoin, right? Technically, I'm not saying they're doing this. There's no way to verify this. That's the whole problem, right? But technically, like Coinbase could be just selling paper, right? Like they technically don't, like, if people aren't taking Bitcoin into self custody, there's really no way to verify that. It's kind of like a trust me, bro type of situation. Anyways, before I move on, I do have a video. Again, I was trying to connect the dots for you guys earlier, right? So you have a huge bank in Spain basically making the announcement that, hey, they've been, facilitating, they've been allowing their wealthy clients to buy Bitcoin. They're recommending up to 7% of their portfolios. Huge amount, big increase. James Lavish absolutely predicted it. But here's a video of Ricardo Salinas basically saying that, look, he's going all in as well, right? Let's check it out, and then we'll talk about it.
Mainly because, the authors of the fraud are the people in government and positions of power, and they're the number one beneficiaries of all this money printing. Mm-hmm. Of course, the normal people are the ones that lose their savings through inflation and debasement. So yeah, Bitcoin is here to stay. I really don't care about its price daily. You know, as a matter of fact, it's funny because I heard in your intro that billionaires are buying. Happens to be that we're in a buying this precise week unrelated to this war. But yeah, we've increased our Bitcoin holdings considerably just in this past week because I'm not going to be waiting to time the perfect moment to get in. I just know what's going to happen down the road, and I don't want to miss out on that.
So again, high net worth individuals all around the world, they're buying Bitcoin. They're seeing the strategy stock play performing extremely well, and they're looking to follow in the footsteps. That's what I'm looking at. I would say, like, where I want to kind of pivot this conversation, just open it up to Opti. Like, I mean, look, bro, like we have this so-called massive interest from Wall Street. You know, all these buys from BlackRock, all these buys from these massive banks in Europe, strategic Bitcoin reserves on the state level, on the federal level. And I texted this to my father-in-law the other day. You know, I said, I'm like, this is one of the most boring bull markets I've ever lived through, like from a price action perspective. Like, people are buying all this Bitcoin supposedly, and we've been basically at 100K for the last 40 days. I'm pretty effing bored. But I might be spoiled just because, you know, the previous markets were a little bit more exciting, man. A little bit more dopamine. I feel like we're not getting that back anymore. Opti.
Well, you can tell Nico's dopamines are fried over here. Too much Twitter, too much social media, too much Bitcoin price going nuclear.
Are you saying that you're content?
No, I'm saying I think it's still going to pump by the end of the year. It's still early.
But like, are we talking about like, oh, we pumped to 125?
No, dude, I've been saying it forever. I am still convinced 200, 300K is still in play. What's the old meme about 33K by conference day? 333K by I don't know which conference on that day. But Nico, I do want to mention. All right, so will you pull up the James Lavish tweet real quick so I can say as he said it. All right. Where is it? It's at this point. Is it this one? Sorry. All right, this point. So he goes, you know, they'll dip their toes and then they will not be price sensitive like individual investors. Did you guys listen to what Selena said? He literally said the exact same thing. He's like, I don't care at what price it is. I don't care what the news is. He's like, I just want an allocation to this thing called Bitcoin. Now, as John was saying earlier, I've been pushing back a lot on the digital gold meme on this show because obviously Bitcoin is much more than just digital gold. Now, of course, there's examples that people need to use so they can kind of wrap their head around what is going on here. But I totally agree. I think we do need to continue to emphasize Bitcoin as money, as a monetary network, as a new monetary protocol. And like John was saying, you know, I think just framing Bitcoin as an asset is kind of putting Bitcoin in a much smaller box than it actually is. But you can see that the people that actually understand what this Bitcoin thing is or the potential of where it's going understand it as something that they need to hold, something that it's not really an obligation. It's not an option. You need to hold this or else. Actually, Nico, I know we're on YouTube, but could we pull up your tweet that you put this morning? I like the tweet you did of the buy Bitcoin one. I think it's kind of fitting here, considering, like Nick said, we're seeing some of the highest net worth individuals finally come into Bitcoin. And as much as I'm here to get Bitcoin in as many people's hands as possible, if you understand the market supply dynamics of Bitcoin, it's the huge deep pockets that do move the market here. And so Nico's, you know, dopamine receptors are fried and he's waiting for the big pump. But in this context, as Nico said this morning, you know, buy Bitcoin, don't get poor, and end war. A noble cause, in my opinion. If the richest people are looking at Bitcoin, you should probably do the same. I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents. If the smart money's buying Bitcoin, you should probably do the same thing.
I mean, it is a pretty noble cause. I mean, that's essentially what it is, right? Like, you know, like buy Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, put it into self-custody, don't get poor. And, you know, and in the process, you're essentially defunding the fiat system, which is what enables endless wars in the first place. It's a very noble cause. Very noble cause.
Agreed.
John, is that am I a kook? Am I seeing things that are not there? Will Bitcoin end war?
Listen, what's all war funded by? It's funded by the money printer. So if people have to hold on to and use an asset that is not printed to infinity, the incentives change, right? You have to start thinking about what matters more in this world and what produces more value beyond the easy money that has come in the past, 20 years, 30 years since, we left from the gold standard back in the 70s. And has enabled this whole new fucked up world, let's say. I think if the world does change to a monetary system that is based on Bitcoin, the whole incentive structure will change. And how billionaires, states, governments operate, that will change as well. So I think you're 100% on correct on that. And it's also back to the discussion of what you guys were saying in terms of the big institutions and billionaires buying Bitcoin. It's interesting to see going through the cycles. I've been through 3 cycles now. Most of the previous cycles were driven by retail, just simply FOMOing in and buying the top and then doing all these blow off tops. But you can kind of see, in the past year, it's just been, sure, there's been dips and stuff, but it's just been a slow, steady growth. And you can see that's because of big institutional buy pressure. So, this whole new narrative that's coming about because of this, that, there could essentially not be another big crash. I'm kind of starting to think that could be a reality. And that's kind of like the good side, I guess, of big players getting involved in Bitcoin. And obviously that's inevitable. But that big FOMO retail blow off tops might not happen again. There's, especially if retail doesn't come back in, which they really have not. And that's also kind of sad to see. But at the other end of things, we might have a state where Bitcoin reaches this, buy sell demand state where it's just slowly growing, and you never see it do a major crash again, especially if we reach the adoption levels on the institution side that we're slowly approaching. So
absolutely. And by the way, you're not the only one to say that. But before we get to it, guys, smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Got 1,600 live viewers between YouTube and X, and of course our Rumble audience coming in strong. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps the algos. I think we just broke 100 likes on YouTube. Help us break 150 likes by the time we get to the 30-minute mark. So if you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. So kind of pulling this up, John, because it reminds me of something that I think we talked about on Monday. You're not the only one who is talking about this, right? Brad Mills posted this and it went semi-viral. And he said, Bitcoin cycles are over. The days of parabolic Bitcoin booms and devastating crashes are done. Bitcoin is inevitable. And we are at the beginning of the sailor cycle. Are you positioned for the next 100x in Bitcoin? The chasm has been crossed. So it's kind of making the same argument that John was making. And what were those chasms? So chasm number 1 was the launch of the ETF in the beginning of 2024. And then this previous election where you have a pro-Bitcoin administration in the White House. And then, of course, the performance of sailors, stock in traditional finance, right? And then what he's predicting is, a Bitcoin global reserve asset, a strategic Bitcoin reserve that's already happened, corporate Bitcoin treasury that's already happened, 10-year cycle. Like, again, so, it might just be this kind of, this grind up. But I will say this, the cycle isn't over yet. Every single cycle, I always hear super cycle. Bitcoin has a way of doing whatever Bitcoin feels like doing. And Bitcoin also has a way of humbling people, right? So we shall wait and see. John, you have any thoughts on this? Because this is literally exactly what you were describing.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the humble pie people eat if Bitcoin just continues going up and there's not this major crash that everybody expects, because it's happened for every single cycle. And I think that would be one of the best outcomes, because all these guys that are in for the short-term profit and greed are going to get wiped out, because they're going to sell the Bitcoin at where they think it's going to be the top. They're going to lose all their Bitcoin and hold on to this fiat in the hopes of buying it back, and it will continue going up. And what they'll end up buying back is a fraction of what they previously held. So I would love if that type of cycle played out, because that would wipe a lot of the greed out in the space, and only those that have true conviction and truly believe in what Bitcoin's about and what it means for the world will be holding the actual Bitcoin. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really
And
good
hey, Nico, is there a way for us to do back-to-back side-by-side screens on here?
I don't know if we could do that.
I don't think you
could share
can,
your
but
screen.
okay. Well, while we're looking here, let's start here. Does this move over? Okay. Look at this new structure. Obviously, we are all familiar with the cycles, and then seemingly the speculation of what's going on going forward, this 10-year cycle. Well, you know, I am a macro trader now, so I'm looking at other assets outside of Bitcoin. I don't trade them; I just look at them. But there is a seeming resemblance here, and this is the S&P 500. So I've been joking for a while. Maybe we're all just holding the new S&P 500 here. But you know, if we're just going in this kind of volatile, but just straight upwards and to the right, I don't think we'd really be mad. But like John's saying, you know, it would eliminate a lot of the stuff that we've seen in the past. A lot of the fervor, a lot of the people that trade Bitcoin are going to get wrecked because they think, oh, it's going to go to 150K and then we're pulling back 50%. And maybe that doesn't happen. But hey, you know, I like a chart that just kind of goes up and to the right up and to the right forever.
Could you pull it up, Opti, on your end? But basically, the Sailor's essentially.
This is also the month chart, but whatever.
So Sailor, like his prediction, I don't know if we could pull it up, but like his prediction is basically that Bitcoin's going to compound 30% for the next 20 years, right? And if that's the case, I mean, that's freaking awesome. Someone in the chat is saying this is a super cycle, 100%. I'm telling you, it sounds like a little bit of a troll. But
I think he actually believes it. I'm familiar with him.
We should ask the chat, dude. Do a poll on YouTube. See, is this the ultimate Bitcoin super cycle? Anyways, guys, before we get into the rest of the show, I do want to give a very special shout out, of course, to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor. Simply Bitcoin would not be possible without our partners, and of course, it wouldn't be possible without our audience either. So I do want to give a very special shout out to the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. What makes bitcoinwell.com special, unique, is that it's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. To get started, you put in your email address, and bada bing, bada boom. Within 2 to 5 minutes, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. And when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points. And you could use those points towards a bunch of different prizes, which we're going to be doing live for you guys in just 1 second. So you can earn yourself a orange Cybertruck. You can earn yourself a Simply Bitcoin hoodie, a stamp seed, and many, many more things. You could also play the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now. Toss a coin into the Wishing Well, and every single time you win, basically. So today's prize, if you have your Lightning wallets ready, you have 504 sats that you've won. And again, if you use promo code SIMPLY or go to bitcoinwell.com/simply to sign up, you get 3 tosses into the Wishing Well, and every single toss you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We'll be back in just 1 second.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on StampSeed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $104,220. Block height, 901,793. Sats per dollar, under 1,960. Market cap, 2.07 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.66%. Percentage issued, 94.66%. Decline from all-time high, negative 6.9%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. Anyways, I have a clip of Cathie Wood essentially saying that $1.5 million Bitcoin is still realistic within 5 years. Maybe it's hopium, maybe it's not. I have the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
I want to start right with Bitcoin and what you see as the outlook for Bitcoin's price. In recent weeks, you've come out and said $1.5 million per Bitcoin by the year 2030. Since then, though, we've seen quite a few outflows. We've seen a lot of volatility. Shonali just went through that. Is that still your view? 1.5 million by 2030?
Yes, it is our view. I think right now we're in a risk-off period generally. And if you've been watching Bitcoin, it's almost been a leader in terms of risk on, risk off. So I think that's what we're seeing. If you look at our on-chain analytics, what you will see is that we are in the middle of, we're a little bit more than halfway through a 4-year cycle. We think we're still in a bull market. And we believe that the deregulation that we're seeing here in the United States is going to be very important to institutions moving into this new asset class. Asset allocators have to have a point of view on this new asset class. And we think by putting it in portfolios, risk-adjusted returns for the entire portfolio will go up.
So, I mean, like, kind of speaks for itself. You know, Cathie Wood, also well known in Wall Street, and she's sticking to her guns. $1.5 million Bitcoin by 2030. Opti, maybe we should have put that in the title today. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty ambitious. I mean, from like a previous cycle, it's a 15x. Like in 2017, we did a 20x from 1K to 19K or 20K. Roughly. Now, obviously, the market cap is a lot bigger. You know, you have institutions involved, but it does seem very, very optimistic. But what I will say is this: like, the general consensus this cycle, and Bitcoin tends to do the exact opposite of what everyone thinks and predicts, is everyone this cycle is predicting 150K to 200K by the end of the year. That's the general consensus. It's not going higher than that. It is what it is. I want to get your thoughts, John. Like, you've been at this, you said 10 years. You've been in this industry for 10 years. You've been in Bitcoin for 10 years. What are your expectations for, you know, let's say the rest of the year, and what are your expectations for the next 5 years?
I'm going to stick to my guns, and I never talk about price, and you know, I've never been one to talk about price, and won't start that now. I really don't care about what the price of Bitcoin is. I care about what state Bitcoin is and what state people and the general population understand about Bitcoin and the general adoption amongst people. Those are the metrics that matter to me. The metrics that matter to me is how many nodes are out there, how many people are mining, how many people understand that Bitcoin is a freedom tech that is only able to remain free if people continue to run it. So those are the metrics that matter to me. The fiat price will follow that. That's people that are stuck on the fiat price of Bitcoin are kind of stuck on fiat, to tell you the truth. They're just stuck on what it means for their bottom line in their pockets, not what it means for creating a new future where your children are going to be well off and not going to be put into this debt slavery cycle that we've been stuck in for the past couple of decades. I definitely respect Cathie Woods. I've met her plenty of times, and she's one of the few Wall Street people that actually understand Bitcoin, the technology. So I'll respect her price predictions, but in terms of me, I could care less what the price of Bitcoin is.
Wise words from a true Bitcoiner. And what I'll say, right, let's talk about adoption, right? I think in terms of adoption, like in terms of actual, if you cross the street, right, and you kind of look to your left and you look to your right, I don't think we're even at 1% of the world that actually understand Bitcoin, that are taking custody of their Bitcoin, that are running their own nodes, that are actually sovereign. I think we're not even there yet. We're like less than 1% of the world population. Very, very few people. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's like 100,000 nodes worldwide. It's really not that much.
I think it's way less. It's like 25,000 apparently.
No, but how many nodes are there, John?
Yeah. So active nodes, like nodes that you can actually see on the network at any given time. It's about 20,000.
About how many?
20,000.
It's about 20,000. But it depends, like how nodes are actually calculated on the network is what you see, like what you can actively see on the node on the network. So there's usually like a 24-hour time frame where if a node is actively pinged, it's about 20,000. But what a lot of people do is they turn on their nodes, send a broadcast, a transaction, then turn it back off. That number is more close to about 100 to 200,000. But again, you're right. It's a small fraction of, let's say, people that hold Bitcoin or are interested in Bitcoin, which at this point I believe is in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of people worldwide. So if we have 100 million, let's say, people that hold Bitcoin or know about Bitcoin, and at max there's about 100,000 Bitcoin nodes out there, that's a huge gap, and that's something that I'm personally invested in fixing, and something that we need to fix as a general community.
Do you have to run a node to be considered a Bitcoiner?
I think that's at the base, yes. If you're not running the base protocol yourself, and I've said this before, I don't think you're a Bitcoiner. I don't care how much flack that gets me, and I don't care if you're not technical or not. The tools exist for anybody to run Bitcoin in their home right now. So if you hold, let's say, 1 Bitcoin and you're not running a node, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you, by the way. Everyone should run a node at this point. There's so many different amazing manufacturers like yourself, John, that make it incredibly easy, kind of like plug and play solutions for you to essentially be sovereign. And if you don't run and I'll just kind of simplify it here for anyone who's like kind of new to the live stream and they're like, oh, what the F is a node? It's just a very fancy way of saying you're running your own version of the Bitcoin software on your computer, right? Obviously, we recommend a dedicated computer to doing that because it would kind of be a pain in the ass, running the Bitcoin software while we're live streaming right now. I don't know if my laptop would be able to handle that. So if you kind of have like this dedicated device that sits next to your router that looks like a box, that's just constantly running the Bitcoin software, of which you can connect your Electrum wallet to, or your Sparrow wallet to, anywhere around the world through Tor. It's absolutely badass. Then you're fully sovereign because you're not trusting someone else. Because think about it this way, guys. Like, if you download a Bitcoin wallet from the App Store and you're just using it, you're trusting that wallet's node. right? And they're seeing basically all your UTXOs, they're seeing spending habits, they're seeing everything. Don't do that. And then you're trusting that they say that you have the Bitcoin that you say you have, right? Instead of trusting, right? Don't trust, verify. Trust yourself. Trust your own computer, right? It's much less likely that it's going to lie to you. So, yeah, I agree with your statement, John. I think you're on the right show where you can say those types of things, and the audience won't lose their minds. But I love how you pivoted the conversation towards, we were talking about Cathie Wood, basically saying, hey, 2030, $1.5 million Bitcoin, to listen, what I'm concerned about is, how much adoption is there really happening? And then defining what adoption means, right? Because I think that's really important, right? Like, buying a Bitcoin ETF is not Bitcoin adoption in my eyes, right? Buying Bitcoin, putting it into self custody, and then connecting your wallet to your own node. That's true Bitcoin adoption, right? But what I will say is, I think there is some type of technical know-how that is required for you to fully do that. I think entrepreneurs are making it incredibly easier by the day, with plug and play solutions. But yeah, I agree with you. Do you think that number is growing, John, or do you think that number is shrinking? Because I would say the number of whole coiners that will ever exist essentially is reaching close to peak, just because of the fiat price of Bitcoin. So is it even possible to get more and more of the population to fully appreciate and understand the power of, kind of self-sovereignty and running their own version of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it is, and that's where we're headed. So, how I've described this in the past is we're kind of before the 1984 PC moment of Bitcoin. We're still, and in the adoption, in terms of the adoption cycle, that's where we can see how early we are. Sure, on the price side, it might not seem that way, but in terms of pure tech adoption, and why the concepts I talk about are still out of reach for a lot of people, it's because we haven't reached that 1984 moment. We haven't reached the point where people understand. Let's say you were in 1980s and someone talked to you about email. You have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about and why you need to use email or why you need to use a computer. We're kind of in the same stage for Bitcoin. It's like, why do you need to run a node? What's a node? We're in that stage, and I'm fine with that. We're building the tech that will get us to that 1984 moment, and I know we're going to get there in this decade. And once that catalyst has been reached, the point where there's hardware that's as easy to use as an Apple iPhone on the Bitcoin network, that's when we're going to get the adoption on the tech side. That's when people are going to understand that, oh, wow, I can self-host my own node, have whatever the Lightning Network is going to be in 5 years. It's going to be super easy, and just simply bring up my own Venmo on my phone that I personally control, that I can send to anybody in the world. That's going to be the aha moment, and that's going to be the moments where true adoption proliferates in the world. And that's when people are going to understand Bitcoin, Bitcoin the network, Bitcoin the monetary payments network, and that's the goal that we're going towards. And we've seen that kind of happen in the past 2 years or so, especially since FutureBit itself found the first sovereign solo block using our devices. That's kind of like where people have started to understand what this means. It's like, oh, here's a device where I can run my own node, mine to my own node, and find my own block that I've constructed on my own node, and then receive that 3 Bitcoin on my own wallet. That has been the catalyst for the past few years of this whole home mining, solo mining revolution. And tech innovations like that is what's going to drive the adoption. And we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we'll get there very soon. So.
I mean, I love that outlook. Someone in the chat, by the way, we released a poll, and someone in the chat was basically asking, can I run a node on a MacBook Air? Yes, absolutely. You can run a node on basically any type of computer. I just don't recommend that if you're going to be using that MacBook Air on a daily basis. What I would recommend is just getting a dedicated computer that just, again, sits right next to your router and it's just running Bitcoin all day. A node is just a very fancy way of saying
run the software.
You're running the Bitcoin software. That's all it is.
And hey, Nico, I do want to jump in here because I want to double down and echo what John said. I've been saying it on the show for a while now. If you are not running a node, you're really not using Bitcoin. Run the software, guys. It's not that difficult. Do not just run a node and say you're running a node. You want to spin up a node and connect your wallets to it so you can verify the Bitcoin coming in is real Bitcoin. That's what it is. It's for yourself, guys. It's not some altruistic for the network. You know, it's not a virtue signal. It's so you can verify you're getting real Bitcoin. Run the software or you're not really using Bitcoin.
And also too, like it gives you some type of vote, right, as well. So if you don't like the direction that Bitcoin is heading from a development perspective, you can basically choose what version of Bitcoin you want to run. Like that's the power of essentially running a node. There are many manufacturers that, you know, that are awesome in the space that make it incredibly easy plug and play. We're going to be talking about them. One of them today, FutureBit. You know, of course, you know, you guys know Start9. We're a big fan of here at Simply. Yeah, so there's really no excuse. There's many plug and play solutions. Become sovereign, become an actual Bitcoin. I'm going to double down to what John is saying. Be an actual Bitcoiner. You're not a Bitcoiner unless you're running a node, man. This comes in, but it sounds so nerdy if you say it that way. It's like, you're not a Bitcoiner unless you're running your own version of no, that doesn't sound better either.
Just run the software.
Just run the Bitcoin software. That's it. Run Bitcoin software. It's pretty
as simple as you want to remain free, run the software. I think that's where people understand.
Bars. So like, you know how you can download Spotify on your computer, right? You know how you can just like download apps on your computer? It's the same concept, right? So fundamentally, but anyways, guys, it's going to be a great show. We still have tons to talk about. Great news from the regulatory side. The GENIUS Act has passed the Senate. We're going to be talking about the implications of that. We have a Wall Street Journal article. Again, positive from a regulatory standpoint, positive from a number go up standpoint. But again, we got a pure Bitcoiner on the show today. So, but from a revolutionary aspect, it might be considered noise, but I still think it's important to cover. So we're going to be talking about the GENIUS Act during the news segment. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned. And then during the culture segment, we're going to be talking about FutureBit. FutureBit is a great way to run a Bitcoin node. So we're going to be talking about that in just a second. Guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Smash the like button. We broke 2,000 live viewers across all platforms. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show, and we will be right back in just 1 second. Let's check it out, Opti. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Cold Card. If you're serious about self-custody, Cold Card is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet. There is no second best. The Cold Card Q is the ultimate air-gapped Bitcoin signing device, complete with a full keyboard, large screen, camera, NFC support, and much more. Do you prefer something sleeker? The MK4 is trusted by hardcore Bitcoiners around the world. Both are built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, secure and open source. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 5% off with promo code SIMPLY. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today with Cold Card.
All right, everybody, we are back. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. Again, part of reclaiming, I love our guests today, part of reclaiming back your financial sovereignty and becoming a Bitcoiner is not also running a node, but you got to take self-custody of your cheese. If you don't take self-custody of your cheese, it ain't your cheese. And of course, here at Simply Bitcoin, we recommend the Cold Card. It's the best Bitcoin hardware wallet in the game. Use promo code SIMPLY. You get 5% off anything on the store. Head over to coldcard.com today. Scan the QR code on your screen. Again, use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off. Breaking news. The GENUIS Act has finally passed the Senate. The GENUIS Act is the stablecoin bill. It also got bipartisan support. It got support from the Democrats and it got support from the Republicans. Some might say it's the same party. Anyways, here is the Bitcoin senator, and she says the GENUIS Act has passed the Senate. And we'll go to some of the details. Here is the paper of record, the New York Times. Not a big fan, honestly. Sometimes the articles that they've dropped have been very hostile towards Bitcoin, which they've magically stopped since, this new administration. So anyhow, Senate passes cryptocurrency bill, handing industry a victory. The bill was a significant step towards giving the cryptocurrency industry the credibility and legitimacy it has sought without limitations. It has worked to heat off. Before I jump into it, do you guys have comments on that framing? Pass it on to John first.
Yeah, I want to know where the Bitcoin bill is. Where's the Bitcoin bill? That's what is this? Cryptocurrency industry, again, and this bill is specifically just for stablecoins as well. So it's like great, I guess, on the general adoption of crypto and Bitcoin, but anything coming out of this, out of these laws has just been specifically omitting Bitcoin itself. I want to see a bill where Bitcoin is legitimately adopted as a currency in the U.S. A bill where Bitcoin is actually put on the Federal Reserve balance sheet. A bill where people don't have to pay capital gains each time they send a Bitcoin payment. That's what I want to see. So,
amen. You even bars.
That's called motherfucking bars.
Absolutely, 100%. So I was talking to Senator Lummis earlier this year, and she's basically making the case that this is the first step. The GENUIS Act, the stablecoin bill, was the first step, and then the next step is the Bitcoin Act 2.0, which essentially make it so that the federal government would start buying Bitcoin. Of course, we got promised by the Trump administration which I'm not very happy with at the moment. And we got promised that, they were going to acquire more Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. Love an update on that. That'd be great. But let's see what happens. But anyways, let's dive into this. I'm obviously not going to read the entire article, but I'll focus on some of the key parts. But again, the significance of this, to use the effing article's own words in the eyes of the legacy media, this gives the industry credibility and legitimacy in the eyes of kind of the matrix, the people in the matrix. And the reason that that's important is, again, if you're a bank in Spain, as we opened today's show with, and you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, you know, the most powerful government on the face of the planet, they're probably not going to ban Bitcoin, right? That's what you're thinking when you see stuff like this, right? So anyways, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. We're at 160 likes. Help us break 200 likes by the time the show wraps up. So let's jump straight into the article. It goes on to say, the Senate on Tuesday passed legislation to establish a regulatory framework for stablecoins, putting the cryptocurrency industry, which has long been viewed with suspicion by lawmakers in Washington, on the brink of a major policy breakthrough. Bipartisan approval of the bill, known as the GENUIS Act, followed an aggressive lobbying campaign aimed at transforming the cryptocurrencies industry image from scandal-plagued experiment to legitimate financial sector. I mean, the phrasing here, guys, you have to understand, we live in an effing echo chamber, okay? Bitcoin Twitter, or Bitcoin, I hate saying Bitcoin X. It's not, I'm just going to keep saying Bitcoin Twitter forever. The Bitcoin Twitter, you guys have to understand, like, that isn't the real world. You want to know what the normies think? You want to know what legacy media thinks? This is exactly what they're thinking. Like, this phrasing is what's on their consciousness, right? So anyways, it goes on to say, Senate passage came over the fierce objections of many Democrats who warned that the measure lacked strict enough regulations or oversight to prevent abuses, including anti-corruption rules that would bar President Trump and his family from continuing to profit from cryptocurrency. Let's completely omit the fact that senators and congressmen and women, you know, buy certain stocks that they're passing regulations for. Let's completely leave that out of the framing, right? The bill still must be passed by the House, signed by the president. It most likely will. But the 68-30 vote in the Senate marked the first time the chamber has approved major cryptocurrency legislation. It represented a significant step towards giving the industry what it has long sought from Washington: the credibility that comes from federal oversight. Oh my God! That last line hurt my soul. John, do you have any thoughts on that last line? The credibility that comes from federal oversight. John, I'm going to make you full screen. And also, we are on YouTube, so please don't get us banned.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what these state governments do or what they think or what they pass. Bitcoin itself is a free and sovereign monetary network that no one will ever be able to stop. So I'm on the same boat as the price prediction on this front. Great that they're, you know, going towards the route of regulatory clarity. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. No government can stop me from sending a Bitcoin transaction, and they never will be able to. So at the end of the day, it does not matter what regulations they do, what they try and do or not do or stop people from doing. That's the point of Bitcoin, right? It's a free network that anybody can use. It's beyond any government reach, and that's the point.
Amen. If you're running your own node. And by the way, we've been running a poll since we've been talking, John. 105 votes so far. 69% of you guys that voted are not running your own Bitcoin
Those are
node.
rookie numbers.
So if you aren't running your own Bitcoin node, you aren't making the rules. Someone else is making the rules for you, my friend. If you want to become a sovereign individual and join this permissionless, non-sovereign alternative currency or network or protocol, better said, you got to start running your own node. So we're going to be talking more about that during the culture. But Opti, you were talking to me when we were crafting today's show about how the passage of the GENUIS Act actually kind of aligns with a lot of the goals in Washington. And what are those goals? Let me give a little bit of context. So the federal government wants to continue to be able to print money, right? And essentially what stablecoins allow them to do is propagate the US dollar worldwide. So Opti, I know you had some insight on that.
Well, I don't know about insight, but just kind of reading from their words. So first of all, I will comment on kind of the general vibe here that a lot of people are saying, and maybe echoing what Senator Lummis was saying and kind of what Nico's been saying. I do believe that with the pass, if this does fully get passed through, I do believe that this kind of leads into the Bitcoin as a Trojan horse on the back end. if they're going to make this official, law of the land, then that's pretty convincing to me that we're not going to get Bitcoin banned. And by them pushing stablecoins through, they're going to kind of leave us alone. On that front, I am kind of bullish. Now, the secondary stuff that I'm seeing and hearing from Scott Bessent and Senator Bill Hagerty, I think are really the signal here. So let me pull these up. And it is going to go, maybe I'm putting my tinfoil hat on here, and shouts out to my boy, Mark Goodwin, who's been talking about this for a long time. But again, I am just using their own words here. So I'm not... This is what they're continuously saying, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, but here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and talking about stablecoins, he goes, this newfound demand, essentially a thriving stablecoin ecosystem, this newfound demand could lower government borrowing costs and help rein in the national debt. It could also on-ramp millions of new users across the globe to the dollar-based digital asset economy, and they're saying this is a win-win. And then if you watch this video, and here, I'll drop it for you guys in the chat, you guys can watch it later, but he essentially said that much and more. He essentially said we're going to drive new demand for treasuries, maintain dollar dominance around the world. Of course, I'm an American, obviously. Like I'm a bit conflicted on that because I'm a Bitcoiner first, but you could argue, especially in the context of everything we're hearing lately, fiat currencies are the driving force behind all the endless wars. Without the free money they print, they probably couldn't push a lot of the stuff that they're talking about. Now, an interesting aspect of this, again, we've been talking about macro recently. You guys know I've been trolling myself and saying I'm a macro expert now because I'm watching the bond markets. Remember what Larry Lepard kept saying for a long time? There's a few things that he keeps an eye on. Of course, the Bitcoin price, the gold price, the S&P 500, and then what's going on in the bond markets, aka bond yields. And we all saw what's going on the last couple of weeks. It was getting kind of out of control. And now that seems to be completely sidelined in silence because of everything crazy and all the tension going on in the Middle East. Now, an interesting aspect of this, again, they are specifically saying they want to drive demand into U.S. treasuries, and stablecoins is going to be an awesome way to do that. We all know Tether is literally what? I forget what their number is. They're like the 9th largest treasury buyers in the world. One of the most profitable company by employees ever, probably ever. And this is kind of what it's all being backed by. Now, this interesting tweet, which really caught my radar, again, it's coming from Arthur Hayes. And I think this might be the signal here. He goes, the road to an exemption of treasuries from U.S. Bank SLR has begun. And he's quoting a tweet by Bloomberg, which says, U.S. plans to ease capital rule limiting banks' treasury trades. The U.S. bank regulators plan to reduce the enhanced supplementary leverage ratio by up to 1.5 percentage points for the biggest lenders, which could lower their capital requirements. And the proposal would change the overall ratio rather than exclude specific assets like treasuries, but may ask for public comment on whether to carve out treasuries from the calculation. Again, going further, as Matt Hogan from Bitwise saying, kind of quote tweeting this headline, this is QE by any other name, and this would smell as sweet. So you're seeing that there is a driving force to kind of incentivize people to buy treasuries right now because no one wants treasuries. No one wants government debt. And as much as, I'm okay with Bitcoin getting through the door, Trojan horse memes, you're seeing that they are trying to drive as much demand into treasuries because no one wants to buy them. And they have to continue to find ways to print money because as, everyone says, whether it's Lynn Alden, Larry Lepard, James Lavish, nothing stops this train. The big print is coming. They have to continue to print money. Of course, they basically create money through the buying and selling of treasuries. So this is kind of the angle that I've been seeing. I think this is I think the reason we're seeing the stablecoin push by senators and even the Trump administration is because they need to find ways to incentivize people to buy treasuries. Again, the interest rates, you can just kind of think of them as the interest of people buying these treasuries. And it's kind of not looking good out there. So this is kind of more of a tinfoil hat take on a lot of this stuff here. But it looks like just people don't want treasuries anymore because there are alternatives, or rather, people are losing trust in the institutions. They're losing trust in government debt. They don't want to hold it. It could be because they don't trust it or just because the returns aren't there. The incentives aren't there. So kind of connecting those dots. That's kind of what I'm seeing, and I think this might be the driving force here. But through the back door, I think Bitcoin will obviously just do what it does, and they can try to, oh, we lost John. Yeah, they can try to put a lipstick on a pig here. But this is just kind of what I'm seeing as a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat Bitcoiner. I want people to use Bitcoin. This is kind of the angle, though. You guys heard me say the other day, what Safety Said at the Bitcoin conference really kind of maybe made me lighten up on my stablecoin FUD here. Maybe this is dollar milkshake theory playing out in real time, but that's kind of what I've been seeing, and I think those headlines kind of back that up.
I 100% agree with you, man. Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Anyways, guys, we still have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Seems like John dropped out, but
if he doesn't come back, I think we should talk nodes, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna talk nodes. So we still got a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Share the content. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are enjoying the content. And we will be right back in just 1 second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
All right, everybody, we are back, and
looks like the power went out over at John.
We got John in the house. John, can you hear us?
There he is. Yeah, I think you need yeah. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Sorry, guys. Troubleshooting live. Troubleshooting live.
I'm going to pull up John's website. Could you?
I have it. I have it already.
Opti's going to pull it up while we try to figure out the audio. Anyways, I'm going to talk about this as much as possible till we figure out the audio situation. John, could you hear us? He can hear us.
You probably have to reset your audio settings. So press S on the properties wheel, and then just like reset it, and you should pop back in.
So, guys, John is part of FutureBit. We've been talking about nodes for most of this show. John has joined us again. See if we can hear him. So if you can go down, Opti, and FutureBit essentially offers a variety of. I love that quote. Let me read that for a second. The computer can be used as a tool to liberate and protect people rather than to control them. I absolutely love that. Very strong line. And the personal Bitcoin miner revolution is here. It goes on to say, the Apollo 11 is the culmination of nearly a decade of work at FutureBit. We designed a system that empowers individual with the full toolkit for Bitcoin in an easy to use package anyone could run in their own home. Move down Opti and let's take a look. Redesigned from silicon up. They have multiple different products. If you can go down Opti, appreciate it. And keep going down. Made for the home user. This is like a box, and this is what Bitcoin nodes are essentially for. They're just dedicated computers that run Bitcoin. So the future bit is interesting because it has the mining component to it as well, right? So it's not just a Bitcoin node, but you can mine Bitcoin on it as well, which I think is really, really interesting. It's really cool. So if you could kind of zoom in, Opti, because I can't read any of that. And we'll kind of break down all this. So there's obviously the Founders Edition. There's the Apollo 11 future node. It seems like John. Let me see if we can get John back up here. John, could you hear us? Yeah, there we go. Woo! Well, we've been going through the FutureBit website, John, and just kind of breaking down the products that you guys have. So what makes, I think, it really interesting, very unique what you guys offer, right? You guys offer the Apollo 11. The Founders Edition is badass. It's orange. I think it's right behind you. And what's really interesting about this is that it's a Bitcoin node and a miner. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, you want me to talk about it. So,
yeah, that's happened to us a couple times before.
But yes, this is a computer that we built to allow anybody to participate, as we've been talking about for the past hour, in a self-sovereign way on the Bitcoin network. And kind of what differentiates us is not just the fact that you're running a full node, it's you're running a miner and a full node. So that kind of gives you the power of what we call an economic node on a Bitcoin network, where you're actually participating at the base layer, running a node and mining and constructing blocks that can actually, you're the one creating the templates to run all the transactions that are being done on the Bitcoin network and create a block around it. And that's kind of our mission. It's not just to get more people involved in the base layer, but it's also to decentralize the Bitcoin mining network, which a lot of people don't know is very centralized right now. Most of Bitcoin mining is done in these data centers where pretty much at this point, probably 90% of all Bitcoin mining is done in these huge centralized farms. And not only that, the pools that create the actual block templates and create the transactions that are done on the Bitcoin network, more than about 75% of all transactions that are produced and blocks are produced on the Bitcoin network are done by just 3 major pools. That's it. So these 3 major centralized entities are the ones all choosing which transaction goes into the next block. And that's kind of the danger that we're fighting against with this institutional adoption of Bitcoin. We need to make sure in the future that there's always free and sovereign blocks on the Bitcoin network. And what that means is that, let's say 75% of the Bitcoin network is being mined by governments or being mined by corporations. They're going to adhere to whatever rules and regulations those governments and Wall Street is going to tell them is acceptable on the Bitcoin network. If we don't have free and sovereign blocks, which is what I call blocks that are produced by individuals like everybody watching here through machines like ours, then we go into this future where technically a Bitcoin transaction could be censored. So if someone from North Korea wants to send a Bitcoin transaction, whether that's right or wrong, that's a whole different discussion. But Bitcoin itself has no distinction of where that transaction comes from. But if we don't have enough free and sovereign blocks, that could become a reality. And that's kind of what we're fighting against at FutureBit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we keep hearing this, right? The centralization of Bitcoin mining. It's a big issue. It's a big problem. And stuff, products like FutureBit BitAx, right, is kind of reclaiming back some of that hash power, right? Because you guys have to understand, like, can they totally censor a transaction? No, but they can totally slow down a transaction without a doubt. And I remember, like, there was like one of the big, I think it was like Mara, like, was releasing like an OFAC compliant block or something like that. And that
Right.
takes away the whole purpose of Bitcoin, right? Which is this permissionless system, censorship resistant. And again, if you're running a Bitcoin node and you're mining, right? You're the one making those decisions, right? No one else is making those decisions for you, right? And I love the way I had a conversation with Jeff Booth the other day, which dropped on Simply Bitcoin IRL. I think it was about a week ago or so. And he kept saying it. He's like, "Look, like, Bitcoin's going to win, and it's going to fundamentally change the world. The world is inherently deflationary, but you don't feel that because the government's manipulation of money. Bitcoin is only going to win if it stays decentralized and secure." He kept saying that, if it stays decentralized and secure. This is part of it. And you guys shouldn't ask what Bitcoin should do for you. You guys should ask what you can do for Bitcoin. And we released a poll. I don't know what the number is right now. It actually increased. 154 of you guys voted, and 72% of you guys are not running your own nodes. 72% of you guys are not running your own nodes. And as John has said, you guys aren't Bitcoiners if you guys aren't running your own nodes. I'm going to end the poll there, right there. But yeah, guys, at this point, you should be running your own node. There's many different plug and play solutions. The future bit is awesome because it's like a node and a miner in one box called the Apollo 11. Pretty badass. And then there's a bunch of other, Bitcoin node manufacturers as well. You guys know we're a big fan of Start9 here at Simply. So yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no excuse. It wasn't like this back in the day. Back in the day, like, it was like somewhat complicated, but like now there's so many different types of solutions. There's absolutely no excuse for you not to be running your own node at this
Yeah,
point.
and I want to point out, when Bitcoin first started, the whole network was run by the original Satoshi client. So you had the miner, the node, and the wallet in a single device, in a single software package that ran on your computer. So when Bitcoin started, this was the reality. This is how Bitcoin was originally designed to be run. It was designed to be run by millions of people running the code and producing blocks distributed in a solo mining fashion. So that's kind of what we're trying to bring back. We're just trying to bring back Satoshi's original concept of how Bitcoin was supposed to be run. We've already found 4 blocks in the past year. Our users have found about 4 solo blocks, and we want to get to the point where we're mining at least one a month, and then we get to 1 a week, and then we get to 1 a day. And when we get to 1 a day, that's when things are like, okay, we're at least 1 block a day is being found by a sovereign individual somewhere around the world that no one has any control over. And we at least know 4,000 transactions a day are going to get into that block, whether the rest of the blocks are mined by governments or not. So that's kind of the reality that we need to get to, and we need to make sure that enough people are participating at the base layer to make that a reality. And that's kind of our mission, and that should be the reality of Bitcoin.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you, John, right? People have to be participating. You have to be an active participant in Bitcoin, right? And this is something that just you just get used to it, right? When you take Bitcoin into self-custody, I think taking Bitcoin to self-custody is step 1. And then step 2 is becoming sovereign and running your own version of the Bitcoin software. And here at Simply, like, most of us at this point are running nodes, and
I think our whole company has their own node.
Yeah. And, or they connect to mine. And yeah, you should be sovereign, and you shouldn't be relying on someone else's node. You should be relying on your own node. That gives you tremendous amount of sovereignty, and it gives you voting power, right? Like, there's this debate that's happening right now between Knots and Bitcoin Core, for anyone who's been paying attention. And you know, we're not gonna pick a side, but basically like, you know, like run the version of Bitcoin you want to run, right? Like
Right.
that's your choice. But
Yeah.
you only have you only have that choice if you're running your own, you know, if you're running your own hardware. If you're not running your own hardware, someone else is making that decision for you, and you might not agree with it, by the way. So something to consider.
Yeah, that point you made there is 100% accurate, and that's kind of like the stance I've taken personally in FutureBit. You know, a lot of people have come to us and been like, "Are you going to run nodes or knots or core?" And our mission is to empower you, to empower the individual to make that choice and make it easy for you to make that choice. We're not here to be the arbiters of the Bitcoin network. You know, FutureBit has about 10% of the Bitcoin nodes on the network. We're not here to control the Bitcoin network. The people that are running our devices are the people that control the Bitcoin network and choose which consensus rules are going to be run on the Bitcoin network. And that's how it should be. All that we are here for is to empower user choice. And we need to make sure a lot more Bitcoiners have the ability to make that choice in the first place. And that's kind of what we're all about.
Awesome. Well, you did mention, John, you know, sadly, it was a little bit sad when I heard this. You guys are sold out of your product at the moment at futurebit.io, because I'm sure there's a lot of people going. You guys are sold out. When are you guys going to be restocked again?
So we're in a transition period of our product lines right now. So we're about to launch the Apollo 3 in the about coming month or so, and our current new product is this little guy called our Solo node. So this is essentially just a Bitcoin node, but it's specialized for people that have, let's say, other miners. Let's say they have a BitAxe or even have a mining farm. It's for people to be able to mine Solo directly to this device, and this we're launching in the next couple of weeks. And this is kind of going to be a game changer for people that are mining, have miners, but have never dabbled into the node side of things and never actually solo mined. This will enable a lot of new nodes and new solo mining on the Bitcoin network. So we're excited for this one.
Very, very cool. Well, guys, I do want to give a shout out to our special guest today, John from futurebit.io. Go check out futurebit.io. Keep your eyes peeled for the Apollo 3. That's going to be launching very soon. Run a node. If you don't run a node, you're not a Bitcoiner. You should learn how to do it. At this point, like when I was getting into Bitcoin, it was a disaster, man. It was not easy. And now it's so easy. There's so many different plug and play solutions, so many awesome entrepreneurs and companies that are just making it incredibly easy for you to just literally buy something off a shelf, plug it in, and bam, bing, bam, boom, you're ready to go. That wasn't the case back in the day. So there's no excuse. Become sovereign. Don't run. Like, just because you download a Bitcoin wallet on your phone from the App Store and it's sending and receiving transactions, like, don't get complacent, right? Because like you guys have to like focus on the end goal here, right? And we don't say this as often as we used to on Simply Bitcoin, but this is separation of money and state. Like if you guys don't like what's happening on a geopolitical level, if you guys have been following I don't talk about this a lot on Simply, but if you guys follow my personal Twitter account, I've been going absolutely crazy these last 3 days. Because essentially you have politicians playing around with World War III, and the only reason they're able to do this is because they have fiat money printers, right? What Bitcoin is all about is essentially taking away their capability of doing that in a peaceful way. It's a peaceful protest against endless wars. And the way that you do that is by enough of the population transitioning to a sound money standard. If enough of the population does that, they can't print money to fund endless wars anymore. This is what it's all about. But you need individuals standing up, doing what's right, reclaiming back their financial sovereignty. And a step in doing that is, step one is taking self-custody. Step two is running your own Bitcoin node, which is a very fancy way of saying running your own version of the Bitcoin software. So anyways, I do want to thank John for coming on today. Check out futurebit.io. Keep your eyes peeled for Apollo 3, their new product that's coming up. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.